Hey there! Welcome to the Flute 360 podcast. I'm Dr. Heidi Kay Begay, and I'm a flutist, educator, coach, and podcaster. My God-given mission is to serve you. I am passionate about guiding you, the modern-day flutist, to discover your unique voice on and off the stage. The goal of this podcast is to help you thrive, both as an artist and as a musicpreneur. Go ahead and grab some espresso, your favorite notepad, and let's get to it. Today's episode 248 is titled, Be a Creative Rebel with Tatiana Thaele. Are you looking for the perfect flute or piccolo to take your music to the next level? Look no further than the Carolyn Nesbaum Music Company in Plano, Texas. Since 1996, we've been the go-to source for flutists of all levels, with an unrivaled selection of flutes, piccolos, low flutes, and head joints from dozens of top makers. But we're more than just a music store. We're your complete resource for everything flute related, with sheet music, instrumental accessories, teaching resources, and health information all under one roof. And our in-house staff of experts is always ready to help you find exactly what you need to achieve your musical goals. At the Carolyn Nesbaum Music Company, we're committed to excellence in all aspects of our business, from our top quality products to our friendly personalized service. And with an in-house repair staff certified in all major brands, you can trust us to keep your instruments in top condition for years to come. Follow us on social media to stay up to date on the latest news and events, and visit our website at fluteforyou.com to shop our extensive selection of flutes, piccolos, and more. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned pro, the Carolyn Nesbaum Music Company is your one-stop flute shop. I love your star sweater.
Thank you.
It is so fun.
Thank you. I've actually got two of these, one in black and one in blue.
I do that all the time. If I find like a shirt, a blouse, a sweater that I really love, I'm buying them in multiple colors.
Yeah. It's like, finally something I like. I'm just going to get lots of these.
Yeah. I love that. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for carving out time for us.
Pleasure.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know this, but I've been following you in your career for quite some time. But then it was like a full circle moment for me when I interviewed and chatted with Joanna So. At the end of that conversation, she goes, "You have got to talk to Tatiana." I was like, yes, on it.
Yeah, we also connected I think it's about 2 years ago now. And yeah, she's been quite a inspiration for me over the years. And I, at some point, I can't remember exactly, there was like a moment where it was just like an obvious logical place for us to just connect. And we connected, and immediately it was just like same page, same wavelength, just, yeah, it was really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that synergy. And you're right. You know, like what you and Joanna do is so similar. Of course, you have your own niches and you have your own like take on things and your own unique journey. But I feel as a flutist who is also a content creator and running her own business, that the Tatianas, the Joannas, the Heidis, the etc. should be in contact, in communion with each other, because we are on the same page and on the same wavelength. And if I can support another flutist who's a content creator and vice versa, like it's a win-win-win.
Totally, yeah. I absolutely agree. I think one of the struggles for me being so far away, like geographically from everyone, is that it's sometimes more challenging. I guess it's more of like a psychological barrier in a sense, because actually the internet creates, I mean, we're all able to connect on the internet, but in a sense, I feel like sometimes like I'm a little more out of the loop of what's going on elsewhere in the world. So I'm always like, hi, it's me, random chick from South Africa.
No, if anything, you're the loop, and we need to get into your loop because you are killing it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. But I think it's been so refreshing, and it's been so nice to just start to collaborate and connect more with other content creators and musicians in general that are just doing amazing things online. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And it feels, and that's why I want to be so supportive and like reach out to people who look like us to build that community. Because if we have a sense of community among us and a core, then I would think that our students and our clients can feel even more supported. Because what I see you and how I see you and Joanna, you guys are pioneers. You're forging this new path. And I think that this new path that we're forging is going to be the norm sooner rather than later.
Yeah. I mean, I think alone with COVID, when COVID hit, it was such a strange moment in a sense, because a lot of the time before COVID hit, people would ask me, oh, so what do you do? And at that stage, I was still teaching at multiple schools and doing gigs and all kinds of things. And I had this sort of little baby business that was starting to grow and kind of take off. And I would say to people, oh, well, I teach and I'm a teacher, but I also have like online students and I teach online. And they'd be like, oh, how does that work? Like, is that even a thing? Like, and there would be almost not judgment, sometimes just kind of like confusion around that. What's that all about? And then when COVID hit, it was this like instant shift of not only being kind of accepting of online learning and online education, but actually being like, help us. How do we do this? Like, we all need to pivot. Like, how do we actually change lanes here or shift gears and actually do this thing online? And so it's been amazing, I think, just in a very short space of time to see how dramatically already I think the focus has shifted. And I think with the technology progressing in the way that it is, I'm personally very excited to see what's going to happen in the next 10, 20 years in terms of online learning. I think it's going to become quite incredible, actually.
I think so too. Yeah. And maybe even the next like 5 to 10 years, but I know what you mean. I kind of want it to be sooner rather than later, just because like, not to be cynical or like an evil witch or anything, but more like there's so many blessings and in this space. And I want more people to realize the bountiful of blessings that could be theirs if they just reached out and grabbed it.
Totally.
Right?
Totally. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. And I think it's that thing of and again, I think this is where COVID was devastating for so many musicians and artists, like definitely. But I think it was almost this like force to just kind of step out of your comfort zone and just figure out like what else is out there, what else is possible. Is there maybe a different way of doing things that we hadn't considered? And finding, as you say, the bountiful blessings. I love that in that and within that. Totally. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So there's already synergy between you and I because we are going down like, how do we pivot and what does that look like? So before we go down those many different rabbit holes, I just want to pause and I want you to have a space where you can formally, I guess, introduce yourself to the listeners so that way they know who you are and a little bit of like your origin story.
Absolutely. So my name is Tatiana. I live in, as I said earlier, South Africa, Cape Town, South Africa, which is, in case the name didn't give it away, the southernmost tip of Africa. I have been asked that question. Where is that? But and about in 2016, May of 2016, I didn't have a job. I had like one small job and I had no idea. I had this master's degree in music and I had no idea what I was going to do with my life and how I was going to use this. And also had lots of other creative energies and was like, I just had all these other talents and gifts and not quite sure how I was going to pull this all together in my life and in my career. and had this idea to start a YouTube channel, which had kind of been sort of in the back of my head. And I'd been watching people like Joanna and thinking, oh, cool. Like maybe, that would be something fun to actually explore. And being as broke as I was at the time, thought, well, I have literally got nothing to lose at this point in life. I haven't got a job. I've got nothing better to do. So I sat down and I filmed 5 videos to start with.
Wow.
And I uploaded them onto a YouTube channel. And I still, for those who know, I've got this little opening jingle, which a very good friend of mine composed for the channel. She's like, okay, so we're going to compose it. We composed it in her bedroom. I'm not joking.
Wow.
She composed it and I played it and put this channel together, was filming. I didn't even have like a nice iPhone or anything. I literally had my mom's like old iPad, which I was, borrowing between her like solitaire games. And I was, taking the iPad and I set it up and I just started to kind of film these videos. And within kind of the first couple of months, people started watching the videos to my surprise. Like people actually started kind of watching it. And there was a couple of videos that very quickly did really well in terms of like landing top search results. And I mean, I had no idea what I was doing. I just kind of like putting in things until things became searchable and sort of really figuring it out as I go. And that just started to grow over the years. And I sort of realized that I had a bit of a niche forming, which was around actually helping adult musicians. So either adults who've played when they were younger, kind of coming back into playing, or people that are starting completely from scratch from the very beginning, and helping them find joy and find meaning in the process of making music and enjoying and loving music. And so I sort of quickly realized that sort of was becoming my audience and my crowd, my tribe. And so that space started to grow, and I started to slowly sort of step it up and start to create a bit of a business around that and behind that. Over the years, again, I mean, I didn't have a business degree. I even skipped business management for musicians because they were teaching you how to write CVs, and complete waste of time things in that class. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was just sort of like making it up as I was going, and kind of in a sense embodying what I was teaching, which was that you're never too old to learn. And actually just you keep learning and you keep going, and you figure it out as you go. And and then, a couple of years down the line, the community was growing. COVID hit, and the community kind of just exploded into this really vibrant space, and people just really needing a space to connect and just share in that music making experience. And from that, we started launching courses and running little like practice challenges, creating practice resources, running live workshops, running regular group classes, also teaching one-on-one lessons. So it just sort of formed into this full-on business, which is what I've now been doing for about 2 years full-time. Have been in the business and running the flute practice as a business.
That's amazing. I am so proud of you. And I am just like in awe, because you are such a shining example of where I want people to be if it's in their heart. And the reason why I say that is because like I hear 360 listeners and my music colleagues and other like instrumental niches and stuff like say, how do I start? How do I even, what does step one look like in the sense of a pivot and finding my niche and building that business? And, I resonate so much with your story because it's like, yeah, maybe there is a step one, but like, I guess if I had to pin a step one, it's just like being courageous and stepping out and diving into the deep end. And you learn how to swim as you go. And I think that's kind of bonkers for a lot of people. And I empathize, I really do. But that's how it felt like for me in my journey, where it's like you have to take that step of faith, and you learn as you go. Like you said, I completely agree with that. And I think maybe it sounds bonkers to most musicians because this analogy of an airplane, they want to get their screwdriver, get their hammer, get the sheets of the metal to build the plane. They want the plane built, and then they will fly it. And I'm like, no. What I and how I see it is you are building the plane as it's flying. Like you are like in the heat of it and you learn as you go. And I think so many people, because we're taught as musicians, right? You learn the technique, you get the scales, you and then you get the piece mastered so well. And then maybe if you feel ready enough, then you put your music out there. And it's not that way. Like, do you resonate with that in the sense of building the flute practice? Like you just went for it. You're like, okay, mom has stopped playing solitaire game number 5 today. I'm going to do a video on YouTube. So you said you learn as you go. Do you resonate with that airplane analogy?
Totally and absolutely. And I think like in some ways, one of the kind of markers of direction in terms of where to go. And sometimes, you've also got to be willing to fail and fall flat. But one of the markers of like, that's where I need to go is often when I have that fear. So I'm going to be like, that terrifies me. And that very often means that's where I need to be. Because the fact that it terrifies me means it's probably out of my comfort zone.
Okay.
But in order to grow, I absolutely have to, got to start flying the plane. Otherwise, I mean, fair enough. Like there's an argument to be made that maybe you want to have some parts together so you don't crash. But the thing is that, like you say, you also have to trust, you have to have faith that somewhere along the line, even if you fail at something or it falls apart or things don't work out, you're going to learn the lessons you need to learn from it. You're going to pick yourself up, you're going to figure it out, and you're going to make a new plan and move on.
Okay.
And I think, how true that how the relationship to music, this idea that we absolutely have to allow ourselves to make mistakes in music. I mean, whether we're performing or we're practicing, right? Like in a performance, if we say to ourselves, you're not allowed to make a mistake, number one, we're terrified of performing because that's unrealistic. And number two, we're probably going to make a whole lot more mistakes because we're kind of in that space. Yeah.
It's kind of like a skier going down the hill and saying, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree. Guess what? You're not only going to hit that tree, but you're going to hit multiple of trees because that's what you're focused on.
Yeah.
And it's too much pressure. You're putting too much pressure on yourself as a performer. And I think that's when like the performance anxiety goes through the roof because you're not focusing on why you're there as a musician. Being a musician, we get to share beautiful music with our listeners. And if we forget our why and we're focused on, am I going to make a mistake? Then everything has changed and the focus is on the wrong part.
Yeah. Well, I think that why, I think that's something that I very frequently come back to with my students because, man, so much of, and I guess just to kind of come back to the thought you were having around like other musicians, other, not just musicians, but other people, like when they're wanting to step out and do something that feels scary or brave or outrageous, or they're like, where do I start? Then I think I would probably say, start with your why, figure out why it is, what is driving you? What is pushing you to want to step out? And I think that can often give us that courage to say, like, I didn't have a job. I had no money. I didn't have a career prospect. I was like, there was a really big why there of like, I need to do something. and although my why has shifted a bit, which it does, there was such a strong drive and a motivator there to kind of be like, I'm sitting on this ledge and it feels safe. But the truth is this ledge is getting smaller and smaller and eventually I'm going to fall off anyway. So I may as well take the first step.
Oh, girl, you are literally my new best friend. Oh my gosh. You have articulated exactly, again, I'm not making this about me. I'm just trying to compare because there's so many parallels here. And I'm trying to show people, and the reason why I'm going there and comparing, like, not comparing, but like talk about the flute practice story and 360 story is because if you and I pivot, yes, we're talking about our journeys, but like stepping into this hat of being you and I being coaches. How do we coach people to understand this? And that's why I'm trying to relate our two stories together to then be like, okay, how do we come together as Joanna's and Tatiana's and the flute content creator / business women out there to help people realize to make that step, to walk out in faith and to support and encourage and be their cheerleader.
Absolutely.
Do you do that sort of work, or are you in your flute practice bubble where you're focusing on technique, performance, your workshops, your classes? Have you done like pivoting career coaching?
So not in a formalized way, I wouldn't
Okay.
say. So it's not
Okay.
that but actually, funnily enough, a friend of mine who's now also working for us, and she's doing a lot of like content writing for us. She said to me, she feels like I'm a door opener. She says it just feels like you empower people, you give people like the kind of courage to just open the doors they need to open. And I think it's something I do love to do. So I love to and I've got some students that are one particular student who is I'm trying to push her to actually write and publish something. And you know who I'm talking about if you're listening to this. Publish it. but to just, I think when we're learning an instrument, we're learning about so much more than just playing the flute or playing an instrument or being a musician. There's so much that applies to how we live our life and what we do in our life and the approach that we have to life, to ourselves, to those around us. And I think when people start to realize that actually I can learn an instrument at the age of 50 or 60 or even 70. I had 89-year-old somebody starting the flute. I'm not joking.
That is so fun.
Absolutely. And when you realize like if they can step out in that way, then why can't I step off? I can even step out in this small way. Why can't I step out in all these other areas of my life too? If I can have the courage to pick up the flute later in life, then I can also have the courage to finally publish a book. And I can finally have the courage to publish videos on, I've got another student who's become a good friend of mine who's started also posting videos on YouTube and being able to, in a small way, share in that and just see that growth. I mean, I don't even want to say that I'm like this huge encourager in that, but it's so exciting to be a part of that and to share that. So not formally, but I love kind of walk alongside people and help them just, realize their talents and their gifts and kind of get the tools to use them.
Yeah, no, I love that. And going back to your beautiful analogy of like the cliff, like for you and for your story and flute practice, you didn't, you literally said like the cliff was like receding and there was no more cliff and you were going to fall anyways.
Yeah.
That is 360 story too. It's like after applying to like 200 plus traditional jobs, you get really comfortable hearing the word no. So if you're really comfortable hearing rejection, what else do I have to lose? There are no other doors. So I might as well build my own door and put myself out there.
I love that. Yeah.
Right. And so people
I can relate to that.
Right. And all my friends and colleagues are like, oh, but you're so courageous. And I'm like, no, literally the circumstances, it lovingly encouraged me and kind of lovingly forced me to build my own door because those other traditional doors were not opening. And they want it for themselves. And I know that they want it for themselves because their circumstances, whether it's their job or they had to pivot into a whole nother career that's not music related.
Oh yeah.
They're miserable. And I think what I'm trying to get at is I'm trying to showcase like you, Tatiana, and the Tatianas out there. People put women like you on pedestals and they go, oh my gosh, how could she? Oh, of course, Tatiana can do it because she is talented, smart. She's got the knowledge. And this is true. But seeing and knowing 360 story, I had a hunch that maybe that was your story too. And I'm trying to get our stories out there for the Janes and the Joes out there to realize like Tatiana and Heidi are just like me. They're just like me. And I'm trying to humanize it.
My sister-in-law said this a while ago, and she's one of those people, like I put her on the pedestal of like, she's this like really successful businesswoman. And I'm like, oh my goodness, and she said something so interesting to me. She said, everybody looks at you and they're like, whoa, look at her. She's riding on a lion. That's amazing. Like, look how cool she is. So brave. It's so amazing. And she's like, and there you are. And you're like, oh, I'm riding on a lion. Oh my God, somebody get me off here. And I think that's so true. I think if I had to say something to somebody who's standing on that ledge, and maybe your ledge is not receding, unfortunately, maybe it really is requiring you to step off it, is to say like, you and I, I'm sure I'm speaking for you, but we didn't step off because we were not afraid. we stepped off despite being terrified.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, we were lucky in a sense that the terror of not stepping off was perhaps just as great as the terror of staying on. But I mean, of stepping off than not stepping off. But actually it's doing despite the fear and realizing that we all have our meltdowns. My poor husband has to manage and deal with me melting down like regularly. I don't know what I'm doing. Why am I doing this? And then he looks at me and is like, you can just go back to being a normal teacher. I don't want to be. I like what I'm doing. I love it. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I had a meltdown this morning, so I feel very validated. Thank you for sharing. No, but I love. Did you say it was your sister-in-law who said about the lion?
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm using that forever. I'm quoting Tatiana's sister-in-law forevermore.
Sister-in-law. It's so much so that I would love to get like a picture of just like a woman riding on a lion that I can just hang up in my studio, because I think it's just such a powerful image actually, and I think that thing of the perspective. What perspective are you looking at it from? Like, are you on the line and you're terrified, or you're looking at the person and like, wow, they're so amazing. Yeah, absolutely.
It was kind of like, I don't know how this is going to go down, and maybe Eric can take this out later because I'm going to butcher it. But I was talking with a friend at the Oklahoma Flute Society, and he came to the table and he was talking about like everything we're talking about right now. What was step one? How did you even jump off the ledge? Right? And what came to me was like this image of like, not a fun place like hell. It's kind of like you go down to hell, you get burned, you get scarred, you get blisters, and then you're coming up, you're healing, and then what everyone sees is this beautiful tan.
Totally.
And it's like, you're looking at this beautiful tan, but do you know that I went to hell and back? So it kind of, in my brain, resembles the lion analogy too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Another nice image I saw of this is like the iceberg, like where everybody sees the tip of the iceberg, but underneath all of that, like the hard work and the failures and the stresses and the anxieties and the hell and back, as I like that, that people just don't necessarily see. And that's not to discourage anybody. It's just, it's not necessarily an easy journey, but it's not easy for anyone.
Okay.
That's the,
yeah. Very true. So thank you, one, for being so human and so vulnerable to go down this vulnerable path, if you don't mind.
No, not at all.
What does your husband say to you? How does he coach you during your meltdowns? Hey, Flute 360er. Are you tired of practicing endlessly with no real guidance or community to support you? Do you dream of taking your flute playing and career to new heights, but you're not sure where to start? Look no further, because the Flute 360 Accelerator Program is here to help. Our program is designed with the modern-day flutist in mind, providing you with the tools and resources you need to succeed in today's music industry. With our mastermind group, masterclass, and pocket coaching, you'll have access to personalized support and guidance every step of the way. Say goodbye to the isolation of practicing alone, and hello to a thriving community of like-minded flutists who will support and motivate you. Our evergreen program allows you to join at any time, so you can start accelerating your success as a flutist right now. Don't wait any longer to take your flute playing and career to the next level. Enroll in the Flute 360 Accelerator Program today by clicking the link in the show notes below. The next meetup is scheduled for Saturday, May 27th, 2023 from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Time. Remember though, you can enroll at any time. We can't wait to see you there.
I think differently depending on the situation, and obviously him being human, and sometimes I think also him being stressed out as well. So depending on the space he's in, I think he reminds me that I don't have to do this. So he reminds me, he sort of takes a step back. He's like, well, you don't have to be doing this. Like, you could stop doing this tomorrow and you would still be you and we would still be us and we'd be fine and we'd make a plan. And I'm sure, you could switch it all off tomorrow if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
And that, which really then gets me kind of back into thinking of like, but I don't want to do that. Like, that's not, whereas my why used to be a survival thing in a sense of kind of like, I'm broke and I need to get off this ledge because it's not going anywhere. It turned into something that became so much more purpose driven, and just seeing, during COVID, seeing people that saying, I don't know what I would do without these flute classes or these flute lessons. Like, I would have like completely melted down with anxiety and with worry and with stress or loneliness, or just seeing friendships forming across different continents. And it's become something that is so much more, has become so much more than just me and my little existential crisis, and I think when I realized that, and then having employed now a few people as well, and the incredible stories that have come off the back of that, of giving those people opportunities to shine and to develop their gifts, and it suddenly again has taken on, it's become one of my kind of mission statements, is that to provide dignified job opportunities to a country where I think the stat is about 44% of people in my age group are unemployed.
Wow.
And yeah, it might even be more than that, but it's frightening. It's a massive percentage of unemployment. And so then I think, so even though I'm coming back to my husband, I think when he says that, people might be like, oh, well, that's, why can't he just say there, it'll get better? But it's just that sort of like reality of like, you don't have to be doing this.
Got it. Yeah.
But I want to be doing this, that's, yeah.
You have options. My husband will do that too. He'll be like, you can pause. Because he knows that I'm a very all or nothing type of gal. It's either I'm working. Yeah, same. Yes. I told you you're my new best friend. It's either I'm working 1,000% night and day, 20 hours a day, or forget about it. I'm going to work 0. And he's like, Heidi, there is like on the thermostat, there is a 50 degrees. It doesn't have to be 100 or freezing. And those pauses, and we talked about this actually in, Eric and I did, my husband's name is Eric. Eric and I did a 5-year Flute 360 behind the scenes episode. And those pauses, when he encouraged me through my meltdowns, was there's a pause. And those pauses actually were very healthy because I could ground myself, reinvent myself, turn or pivot 2 or 3 degrees if need be. Because if I'm banging my head against the wall, then my gut is saying something is off or it's not flowing the way you want it to. So during that pause, you can be like, all right, I'm going to go and be reflective of what's working, what's not working, and then go from there.
That's just to kind of, speaking of meltdowns, I went to bed at 2:00 last night and woke up at 5:30. So that was fun. But fun. I did manage to sleep for another hour or two after that. But I was lying in bed and we just had a big workshop yesterday evening, which went really well. But as we know, the mental chatter and the sort of post-mortem, what do people think? What's going on? How was it? How was it really? But then also dealing with a couple of other sort of setbacks that we've had and issues that we've had, and lying there and just feeling like in my being, like I'm feeling like I'm in a very uncomfortable space again. Like I feel it's that crustacean getting rid of its shell, just everything's feeling a little uncomfortable at the moment. And then the temptation then is to go like, the freak out, the meltdown and all of that. But just what you said about taking that step and that pause, and just as I was lying there, to just be like, okay, just settle down. Let's just pause for a moment here. Like, what can we practically implement tomorrow? Like, what could we, let's just take a step back. Let's just think what simple steps we could implement. What could we do now here in this moment, not to worry about the big stuff, but just the small, step-by-step issues that we can actually just put in place and move forward from there, which is something that I'm not always able to do. And to be honest with you, is something that I've also had to really learn to do, because I am like a very creative, emotionally driven, like it's all or nothing, it's amazing or terrible, or but then actually just being like, okay, no, there's a problem, we need to fix it. Let's look at this logically. And I think that's where that pausing, like you say, that really speaks to me. Like I don't take enough time to just step back and be like, just stop being so busy, and just busyness doesn't cure the world. Like, just
ain't that true?
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you said that, I kind of imagined like a business person hanging up on their door, the front side of the door, saying, we'll be back in 1 hour because we are on a lunch break. And or even like think about like McDonald's or Chipotle or a restaurant having a remodel. They have to shut down that location, let's say in Dallas, Texas. They have to shut it down for a couple months to renovate. They fix up the inside, the interior design. They get new appliances for the restaurant to work better. They work on the facade, on the exterior design. And they know that they have to, like, okay, unfortunately, they're not going to be making or producing business during that renovation because you can't. It's a construction site. But they're willing to pause so that way it can be better and revamped, so that way business thrives even more 3 months later. But I think we're like very much, you and I are kindred spirits, where it's just like, sometimes perhaps it is hard to put up that sign, we are under construction, because we are so passionate about what we're doing. It's go, 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 go. And it's a good reminder, just even talking to you, and I feel validated, like, oh, I'm not the only, person out there who struggles with this, but it's okay to put up that sign. Hey, we're out right now for renovation.
I feel like that's actually kind of the words I need to hear right now.
Me too.
Just like, it's okay to pause and just, because I think in some ways, and again, I think this is the way our world is working. It's like, I'm always I'm quite strict with my team members, like, of like, we take weekends, we take rest, we don't work late in the evenings unless there are really big deadlines and that have to be finished. Of course, then we rally around and we make things happen. But as a rule, Friday evening, we're done. That's it. And it's not always possible, because sometimes people are busy and they've got other things going on and they've got to catch up work over the weekends. And so I obviously everyone's adults and they can work out their time as they need to. But I think we've gotten into this world where you've got to be always accessible, and you've got to always be, go, 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 do. There's never, like, as much as the sort of we're out for lunch, like there's a part of our world that would almost find that annoying and irritating. Like, how dare they go out for lunch? I want to do business with them. It's that we sort of built this culture, this 24-hour, constantly, always available, always accessible. And I think we kind of have to fight to kind of swim upstream and just say, no, we refuse to stand for that. It's not healthy for us. It's not healthy for you. It's not healthy for for society, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. So let's kind of then go back to the flute practice. So in 2016, you've started this thing. It's, being built, and now you are 7 years into? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's cool to say that out loud, right? 7 years.
I'm like, and it's coming up now. Our 7th anniversary. It's like, oh,
congratulations. That's amazing. 7's a good number. But yeah, but anyways, so with that, my question is, how are you, like, in the beginning stages of young businesswoman Tatiana compared to 7 years in? How do you function differently as a businesswoman? Like, what lesson, like, how does year 0 versus year 7 look?
Oh my word. I mean, I could tell you even year 6 and year 7 are like totally different babies, like
Wow.
already. I mean, it just, and this is something. So one of the things that I did that was hugely, hugely helpful, even though at the time it felt like financially a little bit of a stretch, but I think one of the things that I found is that it feels like a very lonely journey at times, and especially, I mean, my husband and I have only known each other for like 4 of those 7 years.
Wow.
When I started, I was alone. I mean, typical millennial. I was living at my parents. Had an arts degree. I was starting a YouTube channel. But and I didn't even know I was a millennial. I was like, oh, those millennials. And then somebody was like, no, you're in that age bracket. I was like, no, those are the young people. No, that's you. Anyway.
I think
But
you're a younger millennial, aren't you?
I always thought millennials were like 1990s into the night, like 1995, and I thought I had no idea. I was like, I'm a millennial. Anyway, but anyway, so I started the business coaching, which helped me not to feel so alone. And I think one of the things that my business coach would probably tell you is that probably one of the biggest changes is not that I don't feel fear and anxiety and all those things, but as a person, I'm not so fearful anymore.
Okay.
Like I think when I sort of started, it was kind of like, here's little me and my world, and oh yeah, like maybe you can like that if you like, that would be nice. Whereas I think I've learned to kind of be like, this is me, this is what I do, this is what I offer. There are going to be people that like it, there are going to be people that hate it, there are going to be people that feel ambivalent. and just kind of realizing that I read this beautiful quote of your business will grow as much as you grow, and I think the kind of person that I've become in terms of just stepping out and owning who I am, what my gifts are, what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, and there's plenty. I'd say next to that, there's like the ability to organize my life better is big on how things have shifted. But yeah, I think that the personal journey in it has been life-changing. Actually, I can probably say that I don't even know to a certain extent. I think my marriage, my relationships in general are what they are because of the work and the journey and the development that I've been forced to have to make through running a business. Like, yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Yes. Yes, and yes. Oh my goodness. There were so many wonderful gems that you said, and I'm trying to figure out which gem I want to highlight. But to piggyback off of your business coach, I had a business coach that told me that your business is like a mirror. It's going to reflect back, right? It's going to reflect back what really is there. And if there are, I'm trying to beautifully paraphrase what she had taught me over the years, but basically, like, if you are noticing that you have money knots and you are afraid to sell or put yourself out there and say, this is who I am, this is what I have to offer, your business will show you those money knots or those financial knots, and you're going to have to do that inward work for that external
totally
reward or the external reward to come to fruition or for it to flow the way you want it to. So you are, in a sense, like, I mean, my identity does not fall in my business, but you are, in a sense, your business, and your business is you. And you have to do that inward work to receive those blessings and to see the fruit that you want to see.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think maybe to say this way, like, your business, your business is not who you are, but you are not your business, but your business is who you are. Like, boom. Your business's identity is in you, but your identity is not in your business. And put it that way.
Perfect. Yes. Because I think the danger is, like, side note, and I think you would agree with me, if you make your identity your business, then I think you're going to hurt. I mean, there's going to be pains with that. And I think that's risky because businesses, titles, salaries, they come and go, right? And so if you have your identity wrapped up into that seems scary to me.
Yeah. And it's a trap that I think I certainly can easily fall into. Like, if I'm not, like, if I give myself half a chance, it's amazing how I get so wrapped in it. Then I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like,
Well,
it's that thing again, like you can put it down. You don't have to be doing this. And it's like that realization of like, this is not who I am, but actually there are reasons that I want to be doing what I'm doing. Yeah.
oh, yeah. And I can fall into that trap too. I'm not perfect in any way. And I'm such a visual person. I've never really shared this before, but I love new things being exposed so that way people can learn. But because I'm such a visual person, I could share my screen right now through Zoom. My desktop picture is like a little drawing that I did on an iPad, probably between game 5 and 6 of solitaire. And there's a box where it says Heidi and my beliefs. And then there are different, like I have like 3 businesses that I run. And I have these different arms. And it says the name of each of the businesses and what that business does, who it serves, how it serves them. And I have to every day go to that diagram and be like, okay, who is Heidi? Where's my faith? Where's my faith placed in? What are my morals? Who loves me? Who am I? And then it reminds me when I see these different arms, like, oh, I can step into Flute 360 and then I can step out of Flute 360 because it's not that inner box of like the core of me.
I'm going to do that. I think I need a diagram like that. I'm going to stick it on my wall. That's really, I think that's so, so, so important. That's cool.
Okay.
I'll send you that on. Yeah.
Awesome. Please. And I'll send you the blank one. I have like a blank one.
Oh, great.
And then like a filled out one. And I'll send you both just so that way you and I don't know.
Thank you.
think, yeah. Oh, for sure. And I think I can read people pretty well, but from the things that you've said and the things I've said, I think you and I both needed this conversation as individuals. And it's even cooler than that listeners get to benefit from it. But this was so therapeutic for me. Like
I was nourishing, actually.
It was like this warm bath. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I needed this. And like I said, you are such an inspiration. And it felt like this conversation was meant to be. And I thank you for just letting me, be with you in this space.
Thank you. I think it's not often that you do just kind of connect. And that's probably why Joanna said it, because we also sort of a similar way, we just sort of connected and it was like, each other's language. Yeah.
So I do want to respect your time because I know that I said it's a 45-minute talk and you probably have lessons and stuff like that. But
it's actually 7:15 here in the evening. So
I don't want to ruin your evening dinner. But congratulations on your recent workshop. And I'm sure it was fantastic. The inner chatter is going to have to like diminish a little bit because you put yourself out there and you put out wonderful content and you served your people and you learn as you go, like you said, But I guess to kind of put a beautiful bow on this conversation, if there is a flutist out there, because we're talking about carving your own path. And the flute practice is an example of that. Now, obviously, Jane or Joe out there, they're not going to necessarily carve the exact replica of the flute practice. But if they were wanting to carve their flute practice, their own path, and whatever their business name is, what advice would you give them? And I know that's a very blanketed question, but just something to kind of serve them in these last few minutes.
I mean, I think it's kind of like almost seemingly like opposing pieces of advice. But on the one hand, I think to spend some time just considering, who are you? What are your gifts? What are your talents? What are you good at? Like where you like, are you funny, or are you like really good at explaining stuff, or are you really kind and compassionate, or are you soft-spoken and patient, or are figure out who you are, what makes you, and how can you serve another community or somebody else using those gifts. But then the other side of that is if you don't have all the answers, one of the most terrifying things my business coach made us do at the beginning was to create a dream chart. And I sat there and I had no dreams. At least I thought I had no dreams. I had some dreams, but I had no idea what I wanted from life. I had no idea what I, and so if you don't have it all figured out, that's also okay. And there's a level where you just jump.
Okay.
You just jump. If you feel this a calling to do something, even if you don't, just jump. The worst thing that can happen is you fail miserably.
Yeah.
And everything, but you will still be you will still be alive. And I promise you'll be amazed where you land, actually, even if things don't go the way that you thought they would.
I love that. Yeah. The worst that can happen is if you fall, you skin your chin. You get a Band-Aid, you patch it up, and the earth still spins. The sun still comes up the next day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
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 Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Well, do you have, I know you just finished a workshop, so you're probably not thinking of this just yet, but do you have any upcoming offerings or classes that you want people to know about?
So we actually have another workshop coming up this weekend, which is, we run them sort of every 2 months. We've labeled them the flute tone rescue sessions because we find that students so regularly struggle with their tone. It's such an important part of playing the flute. And so we run these kind of sessions where it's almost like a flute tone masterclass. And I work with a few students to workshop their specific tone issues and what's going on there. But we also have got kind of regular community challenges that we run. So we've got one that's going to be more of an in-house kind of community challenge, which is called 7 Days to a More Beautiful Phrase. I'm quite excited about it, where we're going to look at how to actually create more expression and phrasing in the music.
Okay.
And then we're going to have another challenge coming up in May on how to get foster fingers and working out some nice little exercises to start to increase our not really speed, which we'll discover. It's more about finger control, evenness, and finding ease of movement. But yeah, so I would actually just encourage anybody, if you kind of want to know what we do loads of stuff. We've got courses and we've got workshops and we've got practice resources. Go and check out theflutepractice.com and become a member. You'll join our mailing list, and we'll also send you information about what's happening and what's going on with us.
Yeah, she really has a lot of different offerings, like even sheet music too. You've got a whole beautiful product suite. It is gorgeous.
So one of the little resources that I think is maybe particularly interesting, which is something we've developing we've been doing it for about a year, but we've revamped it in the last 2 months, are these little practice resources called Let's Practice. And they're basically kind of like an all-in-one packaged PDF that you get once a month with everything in it that you need to practice. So it's got your scales, your technique, got like nice level appropriate technical exercises for like late beginner, novice players, early intermediate. So for the different levels, depending on where you are, we've got little studies that we have been painstakingly sourcing and finding and writing out from, like some which I've had to compose because there weren't any for very, very, very beginner players, but like pop studies and Sussman studies and like a whole bunch of studies, and then little pieces as well that we kind of collate into one packaged space for you to practice and work on for the month. So if you're wondering what the heck to practice, it's a great little resource to get you going.
Oh, I love that. That sounds so informative and fun.
That's the idea. I think one of the biggest things I've realized is that students are so enthusiastic and so keen to learn, and then you get there and there's this like flood and avalanche, overwhelm of just stuff, information, music, books, Tufnell and Gobert and Reichert and Trevor Y and a lot of it's just like way over your head and above your level. And actually just to I've sort of made it my sort of semi-mission or side mission to just be creating resources for less advanced players that have all the same ingredients, but
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great mission. Yes. Oh, amazing. Oh my goodness, Tatiana. Well, one, before I totally forget, you are invited onto Flute 360 at any given moment. There may need to be like a Joanna, Tatiana, Heidi corner.
Ooh, I like
The
that.
wheels are turning in my head. Like there is something here, and I want to, if there's besides like me, and I want to for the listeners out there, Tatiana's links will be in the show notes. So theflutepractice.com, like Tatiana mentioned. She's also on Instagram, Facebook. I mean, you're everywhere. You're so consistent with your content and so accessible. So thank you for your work. But just a loving hand of support. Like if there's anything I can do outside of these links and show notes, I'm always here for you to support you. And I'm so blessed that this new friendship is being cultivated. And Joanna to say, Heidi, meet Tatiana. I'm like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Because like I said, I've been like watching you, but then for her to kind of introduce me to you, I'm so glad for that friendship to open up another door. And I just want the best for you and for your business, because you've worked so hard. You worked so hard and you deserve all of it.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, one thing because we've just booked our flights, but I'm actually going, I don't know if you're going to be at NFA this year, but we actually booked our flights and we're planning to be at NFA this year.
Perfect. Is this the first time you've ever been to Phoenix?
It's my first time ever being to Phoenix. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Are you exhibiting or are you coming as an attendee?
I'm just going to come as an attendee this year.
Okay.
Just because I've never been, I have no idea the kind of lay of the land and how it all works. And I'd considered exhibiting, I wasn't entirely sure like what it's going to be like, if it's worth it. I have never done it before. So
I think it'd be good for, I just exhibited at the Texas Music Educators Association conference in San Antonio. In short, it's called TMEA. And that was like my first big girl exhibitor booth. And it went really well, just getting to meet like listeners and make new friends and things like that. And I was considering exhibiting at NFA, but because I was exhibiting at all of these other small conferences, that kind of took a bite out of the budget more than I had planned. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go to NFA in Phoenix, but not exhibit. And there's going to be a lot of benefits to doing, that. But like you said, getting a lay of the land and just like kind of walking around the exhibitor hall and be like, oh, what would that look like for me and my business? Yes. And, I think that's good. It's like good research.
Totally, absolutely. And I think, so anybody want to come and see me at NFA? I'll definitely see you there. Yeah,
we'll have to get lunch or something.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's wonderful.
And your husband's coming?
And he's coming as well, yes.
I should have asked you this earlier. What's your husband's name?
His name is Andre.
Andre.
Yeah.
Very handsome.
Thank you.
Oh, cool. Yeah, okay. Or if you're listening to this, meet Tatiana at NFA.
There it is. Cat's out the bag officially. First announcement.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations, Tatiana. And let's be in touch. And I hope you have a great evening.
Thank you. You too. And thank you so much for bringing me on to chat to you. It's been really awesome.
Oh, yeah. Same. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Flute 360 podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and review through your favorite podcast app, such as Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, among others. Thank you. Let's talk about flute.